Hello there, welcome back to another show. Today we're looking at Shin Godzilla, the Toho reboot of Godzilla from the mid 2010s. This followed on from the Gareth Edwards Godzilla movie from America. This was like they couldn't make a film in the same year, released the same year as the American version, but they could make other films, so there was contractual thing they could do this one. So they made Shin Godzilla, but they decided to actually try and do a different thing with Godzilla. To redo the origin story, but try and take it in a different direction, a different tack, and give it a more realistic feel. Now, I've seen this before, but I rewatched again and projected it, and it was a much better film projected when you can see it on a bigger screen and you can see a lot of the details. It's much more impressive. When you see it like in TV, it feels a bit slow and a bit meandering, but you actually see it projected. It's a lot faster. It feels a lot faster paced and a lot more in your face and brutal about what's going on. So the techniques work better if you can see the biggest screen possible. It's one of those films that work better, like in a big screen. Of course, because it's a big monster movie, that obviously is the case, but it is a very impressive film if you see it in a big screen. Now, the focus of the film is actually about how do you stop Godzilla. There's no other monsters, there's no nothing. Godzilla's a monster that suddenly appears from nowhere. They don't know anything about it. There's been no nuclear tests to set it all off. There's been nothing. They don't have a clue what Godzilla is in any way. And this creature just suddenly appears from the ocean, and it's mutating as it goes. So Godzilla starts off as this kind of worm that's crawling along the ground and is destroying things just by his body mass. And it's got these googly eyes, and it's a really funny creature to look at. You can see in the background, I mean, look at those googly eyes. It's a weird creature. It crawls along and it starts destroying things, and they'll try to work it out. Now, the big thing with this film is it's all about how do the authorities actually deal with Godzilla? How do they view Godzilla? What's their view of how to deal with him within this context of this, disaster? Like, what do they see about Godzilla that's interesting to them? What do they do with Godzilla? So that's kind of the point of the film, is like, how are they going to deal with him? And to me, that's the most interesting part of the film. That's really interesting. It really does work because you are intrigued about. It's a bit of a metaphor for how government deals with problems, because it's very timely as we watch the government deal badly with coronavirus, COVID-19. I mean, it feels like a very timely film to watch because you see them having all these theories, everyone protecting their own base so that no one gets fired. You can't say anything too outrageous too early in case you're wrong. So that means by the time they work out what Godzilla is, it's already way too late. And if you listen to people who'd already had their, who'd already been following the actual evidence, even though it seemed a bit weird, they would have been a lot better off. And slowly they see them just how government can fail, and how people don't take responsibility, and how people pass it on to others and don't like to be bearers of bad news, and how that actually affects what you're doing as you go through a very bad situation. That's what the film is really about. It just happens to be about Godzilla as well, but the actual process is them dealing with a danger that they don't know how to deal with. And they have to deal with international ramifications because people see this creature coming through Japan. It's like, will it spread to the rest of the world? Will it cause problems to the rest of the world? They see it getting fought by this arming and destroying the army. They see it taking down the city. They see this creature come from almost nothing to become this massive, towering disaster that this is tall as any building. It's just this kind of sense of impending doom. Like, this is almost like the figure of the apocalypse. And Godzilla's just this animal who's doing what it does and no one understands it, and it's never got any personality. It's just like this scary creature. It's an animal who's doing what it does. That's it. And it's like, how do we deal with this animal? And that's the big thing. And the answer is usually badly. we deal with it really badly a lot of the time. It just feels like it's a creature that we don't really have a clue how to comprehend, how to deal with in any possible way. I mean, what Godzilla is just pure force, just pure anarchy within a structure that's already been this isn't built to stand it. Because you get a structure, because it actually shows a structure of society that's falling to bits because they've got it all set up for people to go on with their lives, to produce goods for the rest of the world, to get paid for that, and this multifunction society that everything's been set up just to keep it running. That's it. That's all it does. It keeps it running. You've got these millions of people in the centre of the city. You've got all these other industry outside the city. And then as soon as Godzilla trashes it, it's like, well, what do we do? We've got all these people now trapped in this city with Godzilla. So how do you evacuate them? And there's all this thing about the people who live in the town do not want the people in the city. He's like, well, we don't want them. Why would we want them? It's like, well, you need to take them because otherwise they're going to die. You've got all that stuff that comes up in this film that's actually really interesting to see them actually deal with, because usually in these monster movies is people escape from the city and that's the last you think about them. It's just a visual image for you, and here it's like, no, this is the problem we have to deal with. You've also got the scientists dealing with Godzilla and the mystery of Godzilla and what he is, including acclaimed director Shinya Sakamoto as a guy who is a one of the older scientists who's a bit more experienced. And you see these scientists, because the scientists are pretty much, as they call it in this sort of very corporatized world where they don't like people to rock the boat. I mean, the big problem in Japan in this film is they can't improvise. They've got certain procedures, and that's what they follow, and that's what gets you through the day. And everyone's went through it in the groups and have discussed it all, and everything's worked out so that you don't have to think too much. And this Godzilla just comes in and destroys all that because it's a new paradigm. So they basically say, okay, we'll send all the troublemakers, the scientists, everybody who's a pain in the arse, really, into this one group. Like this guy who's in government who's also a bit of a pain in the arse to them. He says, you run that group and you just try and deal with what the hell Godzilla is. So you see him try to work out what Godzilla is. Like, for a while they don't realise he's radioactive, because they originally say, well, that doesn't make any sense, and then they realise that, he is. And you've all these background radiation noises, levels they have to figure out. And it's like, oh, how do you deal with him? How do you kill him? Especially as he is mutating and moving, because Godzilla has big moments of explosion of energy, then it rests as it's builds itself and as it grows a bit more. Then it's silent for a bit, then it suddenly moves again and it causes problems. So it's one of those things where it's a ticking time bomb. You don't know when it's going to change and move. You don't know when it's going to do anything, but you know that it's just there and it's going to keep coming back and causing you havoc. And it's this infrastructure that's not prepared for that, having to deal with it and having to evolve with the times and having to evolve with Godzilla and deal with something it's not prepared for. And also dealing with the fact that Godzilla's killing its army. Godzilla kills a lot of its politicians as it goes. Godzilla doesn't care who you are. You could die. Some people die here that normally would not die in a film. I mean, it's quite enjoyable because some of them are total scumbags as well. But like administrators more than like evil geniuses or anything. And they've also dealing with Americans who have their own information about Godzilla and have their own interests in the monster and how to deal with the monster and how to stop it from getting out of Japan, because the rest of the world doesn't mind sacrificing Japan as long as they don't get Godzilla. So Japan has to deal with that as well, and it's quite interesting to watch them squirm over the thought of losing their advantage because of Godzilla. So even within a very absurd premise of a giant monster attacking Japan, they get a lot done with this. They actually do go into all the details about how under stress is every country for themselves and almost every man for themselves. And you can see people who slowly build up their reputation through this crisis within Japanese government, and how some of them are taking advantage of the idea that Godzilla's destroyed so much, if we kill Godzilla, we can restart a lot of this stuff and solve some problems. You've got all those kind of things going on, and the lead character isn't selfless. He has political ambitions, but he also does not like stupidity. So it's a bit more complicated than a normal sort of idealistic hero. He's not idealistic. There's a Japanese American woman who watched the Americans, and she's here as the middle person to try and get the thing sorted. And she's not idealistic either. She's ambitious too. It's quite interesting watching these characters deal with each other and deal with all these other scientists around them and how they try and deal with Godzilla. They've got their ambitions, but also they need to destroy Godzilla to actually have a future. And they have to destroy Godzilla before the Americans drop a nuclear bomb on it and nuke Tokyo. They have to do that. That's a big threat of Godzilla. Is he will cause Japan to have another weapon dropped on them, another nuclear weapon. So they have to try and come up with this idea of how to freeze Godzilla. Putting someone inside his body that will actually freeze his blood. That would actually so he can't actually reproduce blood cells. Which is the thing that's making him evolve. So they have to do that and get it in his mouth, which leads to a big action scene. There's 3 big action scenes in this film. They keep it down to these 3 moments. When the first one, Godzilla comes up and he's crawling along, and he hasn't become Godzilla yet, and he's got googly eyes. Then the second one, which is the best one, where Godzilla comes back as Godzilla, as what you see behind me, out to destroy Japan, just going to destroy everything, and he's just a total menace, and he's burning everything down. There are great scenes of the city just getting trashed by Godzilla. There's lots of shots of Godzilla travelling through the city and burning things and flames everywhere. It's basically hell on earth, and he's causing havoc for everybody, and people are dying in horrible ways, and it's just brutal. Then there's the final battle scene where they try to put the planet to action and destroy Godzilla. So that's a throwback to the original Godzilla. Really, is like Godzilla's a threat, and that's all you're dealing with is how do you deal with Godzilla. That's it. There's something very satisfying about that thing if you do it right. We vary it. This film varies it really well. The same way the original did. The way I didn't like Return of Godzilla's way of doing it because I thought it was a bit one note, but these two are really strong versions of that story. Of course, I like Godzilla vs. other monsters too. That's always fun. But this is quite nice to see Godzilla just as a menace. And it is a wonderful film. I would definitely recommend it, but I would say try and see it on the biggest screen as possible because you're going to get a lot more from it. Because the action scenes are funny, whatever happens, but the actual talking scenes work better when you've actually got a bigger screen. You get a sense of the world and these cubicles and this kind of structure that's ready to break because it's not used to change, and everything's been so worked out for down to the micro level of who does what in the society. Then it just gets trashed, and you watch these people trying to rework the society, which means a lot of meetings, a lot of people talking, but there's lots of quick cutting to actually get from one scene to the other, so you're not getting bogged down. So it's always progressing story, but it's going through all these scenes in these like government buildings, which in a smaller screen can get a bit monotonous, but a bigger screen is much more visually interesting. So this was the last Godzilla film I hadn't done. So I hope you enjoy this as we go towards the Godzilla vs Kong release, which I'm doing this beginning of March, so it should be out by the end of March. So I'm very much looking forward to that. So see Shin Godzilla. Shin Godzilla is really excellent. It's a terrific film. It's really worth your time. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll be back very soon with more.